Hello, everybody. Rob Mazak here. I am a psychic medium and I do a lot of different talks on a lot of different things. And usually I have a topic or an idea that I start with. We just kind of let it flow, let it go, see where it all ends up. No scripts, no reading, any of that. I just like to see how it comes out. Just talk from the heart. Tonight, I don't know if I have a specific topic. It's very difficult to pin it down. So what I will do is I will start with an event that happened to me last night. And I was trying to meditate yesterday afternoon. I'm sorry, it wasn't night, but yesterday afternoon. And I was really struggling with connecting. And I've talked about this before a little bit in other podcasts. But it was just seemed so extremely difficult to, I don't know, to get past what seemed like this hazy fog where it's almost like you could kind of see through a mirror that is very dirty or a window that's very dirty, and you can kind of make out what's going on, but at the same time you can't. It's like you can kind of see movement or activity just kind of happening in the background, but there's no clear visual, no clear message. It's almost like those windows that you have in your bathroom where they're not clear. I don't know how you would put it. They're opaque so that you can see that there's something going on behind the window, but you can't actually see what's going on. So that way you don't have to have blinds in your bathroom, although I still do. But I think you know where I'm going. And it was also kind of a day filled with this very strange feeling that a lot of the same things that normally motivated me or motivates me just seem to be very distant. I wouldn't call it like a depressive state or sadness or anything. It just felt like almost like being in a space where I just had no idea what I wanted to know, what I needed to know, what was interesting me. It seems that I've heard so many things through meditation and downloads and whatever word you use when you get intuition streaming into your mind or your body, or just that knowing that kind of happens. And for me, it's usually through meditation, and it does happen throughout the day randomly, sometimes when I don't want it to and I'm busy. But by and large, usually I take dedicated time to try to connect. Yesterday afternoon was just, I don't know, it was like all the connection was just so unclear and bouncing all over the place, and I was getting little snippets here, little snippets there, but I just couldn't snatch on or grab onto something. It was a little frustrating, and I'm like, a lot of those normal human thoughts were popping in. It's like, am I losing my edge? Is my connection getting weaker? All those kind of things that were popping in. I just couldn't figure out how to connect like I normally do. And I guess that's part of the problem, because you're not supposed to really do any figuring out at all. It's just supposed to allow things to happen. But once again, being human, guess what? Sometimes we slide into old habits. And when I finally realized that I was really trying to put too much effort into it and that wasn't working. And so, went to take a shower, got in bed early, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to, make sure the phones are off. There's nobody calling me. There's no distractions, which is fortunate that I live in an apartment at the moment for my job. There's nobody else here but me. Pretty quiet apartment complex. So that wasn't terribly difficult. Just had to make sure I didn't have any other distractions on. I don't have TVs in the apartment, and I don't watch TV. So there's that. Not hard to get away from that. So what I did was I decided that to use one of my other approaches, and when I can't connect and And when I haven't been able to connect in the past, what I like to do is simply just to take that time to put out my intentions, to let the universe or God or your spirit guides, however you look at that and how you connect or what you consider to be that source outside of you. But for me, for this podcast, we'll just use the word universe. Spend some time talking about, really not anything worldly, which was interesting because, we all like to have all those finer things in life. But this particular session, it was more about gaining wisdom, wanting to become wiser, to have more knowledge, to connect to at a much higher level than I have been able to. And basically putting out to the universe that I felt like I was ready for the next level of knowledge and wisdom, and that I could use these things to then help other people even more than I feel like I'm doing now. Because I've been told in many other meditations that my voice and my messages are a large part why I am here. Whew. Boy, that was hard to say. And so that was going really well. And after I spent maybe 10 minutes on these intentions, talking about the things that I wanted and I desired and where I felt like I wanted to go and needed to go in this life, and to move forward past this kind of sticking point that seems to be hanging around, I suddenly found myself breaking through that, whatever you want to call it, opaque barrier. What I found was a little different than I have in the past. Because with my experiences and those of my clients, especially through hypnosis and regression and things like that, when those clients journey to the quote-unquote spiritual realm, they almost always describe the source, in their words, as this extremely bright light, just overwhelming love, all these different things, very similar to what they have discussed or talked about in the Bible, for example, where it talks about, the face of God being so bright that you could never comprehend it, or almost being overwhelmed by it. So you get a lot of documentation, a lot of different avenues of information that say a lot of the same things. I have had one client in the past doing the regression and this one I purposely brought her to the source, and she felt like it was absolutely bad. It was not what everybody else described it. It was really interesting. That's the only one I've ever had. But as I found myself breaking through this particular barrier and to the other side, what I found was this source was more of a darkness, the source that I was being introduced to and shown. Not a darkness as, this, like you would imagine going into a dark closet and feeling scared or not feeling loved or whatever, or empty, any of that. But it was a very calming thing. And what I was hearing was that what I have been told and shown in the past and through other clients is that's one side of it, but there's also another side of it. And so that, there should be a balance. There should be a, light and dark, for lack of a better word. But what I was seeing was really interesting because it was almost like I was on this, I don't know if it's a planet, the place. There was a place that was really, really dark, really black and jagged, like jagged rocks. Almost like if you were on, an asteroid or something. I don't even know how to describe it. It was really, really strange. and they had all these peaks and valleys, and it's sort of in a way like if you could imagine yourself being on an old record, and records are made with grooves and valleys and all these different notches that somehow create music. But that's kind of like what it felt like being I don't know. It was really, really odd, but it wasn't scary. It wasn't didn't feel dangerous. It felt very welcoming. And what I began to see then was like in these fissures and all these different areas of lower places on this place, wherever I found myself, I saw, at least to my left, was this like green colored fluid or water or whatever, but it wasn't very clear. It was almost like somewhere between water and gel, and it was just like flowing and ebbing in all of these empty spaces. As you can tell, it's very difficult sometimes to explain your journeys and what you're seeing, but I'm trying to do the best I can. Then as I was looking more towards my right, on the other side of this place, the color of this particular liquid changed more to a medium blue color. I kept getting thoughts of the crystal obsidian. And if you've ever seen any crystals and things like that, there are a lot of crystals that have those interesting colors running through them. And I'm not sure that's what it was, but that's what I kept hearing was, the word obsidian. And so, I did some research on it later. I'm fairly familiar with obsidian, and it's a stone that really works well for me. And so, at least part of the message is I should be perhaps getting more or getting back into crystals again, and especially the metallic ones like obsidian. But that wasn't, of course, the end of it. And so I was getting this little journey or walk tour through this area, and I just saw so much of this fluid moving around, and there was no sound per se. It's not like I was on a planet or a place where there was a bunch of noise and wind or any of that. But I got taken over to this, I don't know if it's a house, a structure, sort of like an outside pavilion, a really long, large one. Everything was still black. Everything was still black. In the center of this pavilion was this like, I want to say, whatever this material was that I was seeing black, it was made of that. And it was just like this huge flat surface. And I was asked to sit down and at this table or this plate, or whatever you want to call it, surface. I guess it was like a table because I could get my legs underneath it. On the top of this surface, I kept seeing all of these writings, kind of like almost like part of it was a monitor, almost like a computer monitor. That's the best way I had to describe it. And there was this interesting alphabet or characters that looked like they should represent words or ideas, sort of like our alphabet. And if you've ever seen runes is sort of like another way of doing readings. Runes are like little square, generally little square or rectangular tiles that have these interesting characters on them. And I'm not sure where they come from or what. I mean, I haven't really been attracted to it. That's what it looked like. It looked like that. And the strange part is it's like the writings, I guess is the best way to put it, were transforming and moving, almost like I was watching something computerized or digitized. So it kept changing and giving me different characters, but all very much like those rune characters. I couldn't necessarily read them or understand them as I would my own English language, the only one I know. But I felt like I understood everything that was being portrayed or shown to me. And that I wasn't necessarily getting a solid message consciously, if that makes any sense, even though this was more of a subconscious journey. But I just, it felt like the information was being integrated within me, not through my, the way I would normally expect it, through words and sounds, those kind of ways like we learn here in this reality by reading something, hearing something, all those kind of things. But it felt like I was being embedded or integrated with this deep knowledge that I don't quite think I understood at the moment. But it was like my intention of learning more, obtaining more knowledge and wisdom was being given to me in this place. I believe there was more of a message there, but I don't recall it now. But I found that really interesting that I was shown that the source can be all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be everything we think it is or everything that the masses experience, but that our source of knowledge and wisdom is going to be given to us in ways that we can't understand. And just when you think you understand it, well, all these years of working with people in my own journeys, the source, being this bright, amazing light that you can't even look at hardly, and this portraying this overwhelming, loving feeling and belonging, and now I'm being shown something different. But, it's kind of like what I asked for, right? In my intentions, it was like, show me something, give me more knowledge and wisdom about things that I don't know yet, in ways that I could help others, like we talked about. I take that as a very, very strong message, at least for me, that I really have to open myself up and quit operating in the parameters that have been the dominant experience, if that makes sense. Not that there's not trust, but even though I've gotten all the same types of experiences through clients and myself all these years, does not mean that that's all there is. And that's the only way that the source of knowledge, the knowledge of source, however you'd like to put that, is in actuality. It tells me that it can be anything it needs to be, when it needs to be, how it needs to be, in the right timing. And this kind of comes on the heels of me talking with an older friend, and they were struggling with a decision. They just wanted to see what I thought, and kind of the original text about the topic was, how do you know what the universe is saying to you? And that's a really difficult thing to answer. But I will say, though, that the universe will communicate with you very subtle ways at first. Little breadcrumbs, little ideas, closing doors, things that will happen in your life that are trying to bump you off the course you're on onto the course where you're supposed to be. And what I've discovered, especially personally, and when I talk to others, is the same dynamic, is that if you're not listening for long enough, you will get a much bigger reason to change your course. And, like a sickness or an illness, it's time for you to rest, or, that's just one example. I have learned to opt into the smaller versions of the big hammer. I'm trying my best, and I try my best to be very obvious or intentional with paying attention as much as I can. It's easy to get lost in your day, right? Especially in the job I'm in. I mean, it's like nonstop, but we all have to pay attention to those little signs, because if we don't, then we will get that slamboozle. And I'm sure you guys have heard some of my stories before on some of the ones I've had, and so not fun. In this conversation, I think the biggest way to help somebody understand the way the universe is speaking to them is to get an outside observer to hear your story, understand what you've been going through, And it, to me, when this person was describing all the things that have happened and things that have led her to the point she's at where she had to make decisions about what she wanted to do with her life, it was completely obvious to me that she had been, all the doors were closing, all the signs were there that the decision she thought that was the wrong thing was really the right thing. Because, let's just face it, if our job as human beings is to grow, to come here and spiritually grow, to learn and become a better version of someone that we came into this world as, to learn lessons or to relive karma or however you want to categorize that, we have to get out of our comfort zone. Because if we stay in our comfort zone and we do the same thing every day, we're going to get the same result, right? I mean, I don't think it takes an Einstein to figure that out. If you keep doing the same thing expecting different results, you're going to be very sadly disappointed. And so the only way to grow is discomfort. I'm not saying you need to go out and do dangerous things now, and let's not get me wrong. I'm talking about, knowing that you should be doing something different and it's scary or it's too much of a risk. People won't like me. What will they think? My family thinks I'm crazy. Nobody's here to run your race but you, right? You are the only one that's going to run your race and the only one that gets to run your race. I don't care how close your friends and your family and your spouses and your kids are. Your race is your race, and nobody can do it for you. Nobody can walk it for you. They can only walk with you, support you or not. But it's not their job. It is whose job? Your job, right? We just need to do a better job. And I'm speaking to myself, right? I'm not perfect. I've just been through a lot of self-development that helps me be more mindful of things and at least know when I'm being stupid or out of line or, out of balance. Sometimes it takes me a minute to get back, but it's a lot quicker than it used to be, right? So we do need to do those things that are uncomfortable, and we do need to do things differently to get a different outcome. The only thing permanent in life is change. I can tell you that this job I'm in right now, it has been the same at this place for years and years. Because I've done this job before. I stepped away and did other things. Back to this job, and when I first popped in, it was the same. I'm like, oh, cool, I know this, comfortable, this is my comfort zone. Oh, Lord, was I in for a surprise. It's been months now, and everything has changed almost every day, and it's still continuing to change. So why am I here? I assume it's because I'm being forced out of my comfort zone to do things differently. I'm not saying that they're dangerous or anything. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I'm being forced to get out of those norms, which is really the only way to grow. I mean, if you want to have a diamond, right? I say this a lot on my podcast. But you take a lump of coal and you put it under extreme pressure for long periods of time, and that's what creates a diamond. But if that lump of coal finds, assuming it's like a person has a decision, that it decides that it's not going to, it doesn't like the pain and the pressure, and it's okay just being a lump of coal. Well, it's never going to be anything more than just a simple product, a simple existence. But becoming a diamond is a whole different thing, right? Everybody wants you. You're very valuable. You're very important. And I'm not saying that's what life's about. Being important is only lasts as long as until you do something stupid or somebody thinks you're doing something stupid. And it's not all about success either. Because if you look at the story recently where this huge super yacht went out in where was that? In the Caribbean, I think. With billionaires on it. Down went the ship. And they can't figure out why. These people left this earth with billions of dollars in the bank. We all would love to have money. I would too. I'd love to have lots of money. But is that really the end of it all? Because you can lose it just as fast as you gain it. You can also find yourself on the other side, unalived is the political word now, right? All that money is still sitting here doing you no good. Now, it might do your family good. I'm not saying, that it's all bad. But I think you get my point. That sometimes we get into those areas like I talked about where we feel completely not stuck, but the past is not important. The future doesn't feel important. And what we're doing doesn't feel important. And it's just sort of like this weird space. Almost like we are that opaque window that has no idea what it is or where it's going or what's happening behind the scenes. And we have to, when we run into those times in our life, we have to do something different to shift it. And for me, it was just as simple as putting out intentions, and then boom, I get this new message. I feel like I got a lot of underlying knowledge that will simmer back up to the top. And I got to see some really cool place, whether that exists or not. It's probably more symbolic than a place. We have to get out of our own way. Sometimes it's okay if you need the time to just kind of but hang out in that weird space and just, not do much. I mean, there's nothing wrong with resting and recovering and kind of sitting in that la-la land, but we can't stay there. And I think that's what's happening a lot in our society is that we get stuck in these places and we don't know how to get out, and we just stay there for so long it becomes our norm, and then a lot of people never get out of that, and we can't figure out how. And then we get on medications and the rigmarole, right? It just doesn't work out well. So I encourage you guys to really, I don't know what the right term would be, but I guess be more mindful of how you're feeling, what's going on, and what kind of things and signs are being presented to you, patterns that are happening in your life, trying to get into colleges and it's just not working out, and you get into class and something always comes up, you have to drop classes because of this or that, and maybe college isn't for you. That's just one example. Doors are closing, and I can tell you that if you try to force doors open, I'm not saying it won't work out, but a lot of times the reason doors are being closed is because you're not supposed to open them, or at least not then. Maybe it's a door you need to open later. Because I can tell you, looking back at my life, there's a lot of doors I prayed and prayed and prayed would be open. This is the right woman for me. This is the right job for me. This is the right thing for me. Looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so thankful that intention or that prayer was not delivered or answered. So we don't always know in the moment what is right for us, because that which lies outside of us has a much bigger view, a much different view. They can see things in a grander scale. I say they, I'm personifying, but those that guide us from the outside can see way beyond our little limited human experience. And so we need to recognize and learn how to listen to those things, do something with it, because it's not enough to have knowledge. It's not enough to know things unless you're going to do something with that. What's the point of having a bunch of knowledge and not sharing it or using it for the betterment of yourself and mankind, just helping other people with that knowledge, or at least trying to, because not everybody's ready for it. I think I would like to kind of wrap this up a little bit by saying that we are way more than we think we are. And we are here to become something that we cannot even possibly imagine. And that's part of the problem, is we have to figure out at least a direction to start. If you start, your guides can guide you. If you don't start, it's kind of hard to guide you if you're not moving. I'm not saying they can't, but we need to get on a path, get going. And we'll be able to figure out eventually if it's the right path, and we may have to choose a different one, or another one will be chosen for us. That's okay. But we have to begin. And if you're tired of starting over, and then maybe you need to stop quitting. Come on, people. We have to get moving. We have to do the work. Success in any measure of form, monetarily, spiritually, any way you look at that, however you look at success, the only place it comes before work is in the dictionary, people. You have to do the work. Let's look at the biblical ideas, right? God wants to meet us halfway. These are the kind, the way I envision the writings, is that the reason we pray and the reason that we reach out to God in this instance is because, God would know the secrets of our heart and our desires, yes. But just like Jesus went around healing people, he would always ask them what it is that they desire. Maybe they didn't want their sight back. Maybe they were just hungry. So Jesus in that instance wanted to see where their commitment level was, where their intentions were. And I believe that God or the source or the universe is the same. We have to put the work in. We have to put our intentions out. And once we begin, we will be met halfway. We will get the assistance we need. No action, I don't think we're going to get any help from the beyond without that. I'm not saying we won't. It's just my personal experience that we need to do something with our life, and our life will do something for us and others. I will wrap this up. As I always say, I would really love to hear from you guys and about this topic or others. Go to my website at lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. Find my contact page, find a way that works best for you to contact me, and hey, reach out. Love to collaborate, and maybe some of you guys would like to do some conversations like this with me on a podcast or a talk, and we can share ideas and put that out. Power of more than one, it's important. So you will be hearing from me again for sure. I hope to hear from you. Stay strong and live your life.